Sex for favors, secrets, cover-ups, corruption. I've heard things that'll blow your mind, and now it's time that you get the full story. I'm Cody Lee, and this is Quinspiracy Theory. Wow. Unbelievable. We're on the second season of Gamergate. An entire decade later, and we're seeing a lot of old faces resurface. We're seeing a lot of new ideas being brought forward. We're seeing a lot of things happening right now. And unlike last time, the general public are not going to be blindsided. There is going to be no wringing your hands and trying to say that I don't understand Gamergate. I don't understand the issues they stand for. I'm told they're a harassment campaign. I suppose it must be true. We saw this happen with the Act Man, right? Where he tried doing that same old game journalist shit, right? The thing that Boogie and Angry Joe and Review Tech USA did, where he tried coming out initially and saying, "Oh, Sweet Baby, I don't understand why this is an issue, guys. They're just a consultation company. They're a normal thing." And then 6 months later, he has to backtrack off of that because it's so obvious what's happening now. There have been so many people talking about this over the past couple of months. The fires have been rising that it's becoming impossible to deny anymore. And now people are calling him out for backtracking, right? The Angry Joes of the world are not going to be able to downplay Sweet Baby Incorporated, especially when they openly come out condemning projects they work on. Stuff like Saints Row, stuff like Suicide Squad, stuff like, all these games that are coming out in the future, right? It is going to be very, very difficult for these guys to pander to the far left when it's becoming increasingly clear to the general population that the far left are a problem. And that's not just true in gaming, that's true in society in general, but gaming did it first, right? Gaming is the industry where all this culture war nonsense finally kicked off, right? Because it had been building for a long time. It had been growing and growing in power and influence, and they were messing with more and more stuff. And then finally, they attacked gamers, and gamers rose up. We told those game journalists what for. We uncovered the conspiracy. We uncovered the people behind it, the ideology behind it. We made all of that mainstream knowledge. And yet, at the time, 10 years ago, those ideas were rejected, right? But that wasn't able to stick, right? That's the thing that people didn't understand when a game journalist pronounced that they had won Gamergate, was that the ideas had taken root in the culture, right? It took years and years of bad releases, terrible game news coverage, and just game journalists just being themselves to wake up the common population to what was happening. This should have been apparent after The Last of Us Part 2 came out, that this was the direction gaming was going in, right? Where people would pay lip service to the ideology. They would pay lip service to the ideas, to the creators, to the game journals, but they wouldn't actually enjoy the product, right? That was the thing, is that there was a lot of open support for The Last of Us Part 2, but it was completely overshadowed by the backlash towards it. And although the narrative has continued over the past couple of years to paint The Last of Us Part 2 as a misunderstood masterpiece and Neil Druckmann as one of the greatest creators in gaming, none of that really stuck, right? Because too many people understood what was actually going on. And with Sweet Baby Incorporated, with a bunch of new content creators that have established themselves as being anti-woke personalities, people like Stuttering Craig, people like me, I was not making YouTube videos 10 years ago, right? I wasn't able to, because, I was living in abject poverty, right? So for me, seeing Gamergate come back, when I actually have a platform this time, this is the moment I was waiting for. How in Avatar: The Last Airbender, King Boomy lets his city of Amashu get taken by the Fire Nation, and then Aang goes to find him, and he's just why? And King Boomy explains, right? You can either attack, you can run away, or you can do nothing. Right? You can just sit there and take it, right? And the wisdom in that is being that you're waiting for the opportune moment, right? To decide what you want to do. Like waiting for like the moment where your enemy is at his weakest, right? Waiting for the moment in which you can take the next step forward. And for Gamergate, the issue wasn't that like we didn't have the information or that the developers weren't actually doing this or that there weren't actual problems with the gaming industry. Like the issue was that like the vast majority of the population, the boomers, we should call them, like the old guard, like they did not want to believe it was true, right? Like everyone bent over backwards to defend game journalism, even though that like these are the same people who like allege that they're against gaming journalism. Just looking at you, Angry Joe, right? These people like complain about game journalists constantly, except when it comes to their politics. Except when it comes to like defending certain aspects of certain games, right? Defending some of the creative decisions behind The Last of Us Part 2 or Suicide Squad or whatever. Like, a lot of these people have always come out and defended game journalists on that front, right? They are ignoring the actual issues, right? The fact that like creators, journalists, they are trying to put politics first. They are not interested in making a good, interesting, fun product. They are interested in pushing propaganda onto an unsuspecting population. And the issue since Gamergate is that like that's no longer possible, right? Back in the 60s, people ate up Star Trek, up until like Mass Effect they were doing that, right? And now, like I don't think something like Mass Effect would work today, not in the same capacity, right? Like people never like thought of Mass Effect as propaganda, even though it totally was. And now, almost 20 years later, well, 15, like all this time later, like something like Mass Effect would be condemned by a certain demographic of the gaming population, right? People would address like the weird political undertones, right? People would bring up the fact that the token conservative character Ashley is treated like trash, like by the narrative, right? People would bring up how ridiculous it is that the Asari exist and like the whole concept, like it's woke, right? Like it's woke, but people didn't know it was woke. People didn't know what woke was at the time, right? And over the past several years, BioWare's fallen off. All of their partners have fallen off. The publishing studios have fallen off. Like we're in the middle of a major gaming crash. Gaming journalists are getting laid off like right now, and they're coming out and defending Sweet Baby Incorporated. I think they know this. I think we know this. They are not in a position to do this right now, right? They are not convincing anyone. Like the only people who are like believing their nonsense are people who are like religiously involved in the conspiracy, right? Like outside of that specific niche of people who essentially are people in a specific group within like the coastal cities, like nobody really buys into this agenda at all. And it's becoming more and more apparent that like this mindset, this belief system, it is going to die in the next like couple of decades, right? Probably with this generation. I do think this is going to be the beginning of the end of that. Like when these people come out, like seeing them get identifying, seeing like a lot of the same names come forward. I think one of Zoe Quinn's exes is involved with Sweet Baby Incorporated. Okay, who are the two major figures involved with Gamergate? Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn, right? What are they doing right now? What are they doing right now when Gamergate 2 was kicked off? Anita Sarkeesian is like having a fake like marriage. Like she has a wedding themed 40th birthday party because she's such like a stereotypical feminist. She's gained a bunch of weight. She looks terrible. She hasn't contributed anything to gaming in the past decade. Nobody likes her. Nobody remembers her. She isn't relevant, right? Anita Sarkeesian is done, is over, finished, right? Her ideas were stupid. Everyone agrees on it. It's over. Zoe Quinn's killed someone. Okay, like she got a guy so she like destroyed his life so badly that he killed himself, right? Like Zoe Quinn isn't even relevant on Twitter anymore because like that's such a big thing, even in her circle, that like she bullied him so hard he killed himself, right? I'm not making that up, by the way. That is 100% true. So like these are the people that like the game journalists tried defending last time, right? These are the people that like game journalists tried painting as like just these innocent victims in this like white in this gaming conspiracy, right? Like, oh, they didn't do anything wrong. They're just feminists. No, they did plenty of things wrong, right? Especially in hindsight, right? Like these things are widely known. You can look it up. Like, and again, last time we saw a lot of people, Woody's gamertag is the example I always use, who tried like doing this thing where they're just like, oh, I don't understand Gamergate. Like, those people are not going to be able to pull that nonsense like this time, right? Like if someone tries to tell you that, just tell them to shut the fuck up. Like, like, he or she does not know what he or she is talking about, right? That is just complete delusional, just nonsense. Okay, it's just an attempt at justifying your preconceived notions about like a conspiracy. Like we saw this with Gamergate, where like people like Woody's Gamertag like had an idea about Gamergate. They're like, oh, it's nothing, it's literally nothing, and then like tried damage controlling it, and the way they would do that was just like pretending not to understand it. Like, oh, I don't understand why this matters. Well, then you're out of touch, you boomer. Like, you need to stop having an opinion on something you don't have the slightest clue about. Okay? Like, go back to your podcast and keep interrupting like your no-name guests. Like, I don't care what you have to say. I don't care what you believe because I know it's wrong. Okay, you are a complete worthless human being who has contributed nothing to the gaming industry in your entire gaming YouTube career. Like, you are a worthless person. So, my belief on that is pretty strong, and I'm really curious how gaming journalists are gonna act, because right now we're just now entering the gamers are dead stage. Like, this is like very early Gamergate stuff, where like journalists start like writing their articles about how Sweet Baby didn't do anything wrong, and they're trying to do what they did last time, but like nobody's buying into it. And a big reason for that, NeoGAF is gone. Twitter is controlled by Elon Musk. Discord is more of a thing. People know like the playbook now. Like, the other side, the gaming journalists are not going to be able to downplay what's coming. Right? This is the beginning of the end for them. Right? Woke culture is dying, and there is absolutely nothing they can do to stop it.